Virginia loves to call itself the birthplace of America. Jamestown, the Revolution, the Founding Fathers. But there's another Virginia, one buried under monuments and myths. A Virginia of black heroes whose names are almost erased. This isn't a story about statues. It's about people. People who fought, built, resisted, and dreamed, only to be buried in silence. Tonight, we're digging them back up. In 1640, 3 men ran away from a Virginia plantation, 2 Europeans and 1 African named John Punch. When they were caught, the Europeans had their servitude extended a few years. Punch? He was sentenced to slavery for life. That single ruling created the legal model for racial slavery in America. One man's punishment became an entire system. John Punch isn't remembered as a person. He's remembered as a law. But behind the ruling was a life, a man who risked everything for freedom. 16 years later, another name shook Virginia's courts. Elizabeth Key. She was the daughter of an enslaved African mother and an English father. She sued for her freedom in 1656, and she won. The court ruled she was free because her father was English, and she was baptized a Christian. For one moment, the system cracked. A black woman used the law to outsmart her oppressors. But Virginia panicked. 6 years later, they rewrote the law. A child's status would follow the mother, not the father. Elizabeth's victory was erased. But her courage shows the fight for freedom started long before 1776. Fast forward to the Civil War. Mary Richards Bowser should have her own movie. Born enslaved in Richmond, she was freed and educated in the North. During the war, she returned to Virginia, posing as an illiterate servant in the Confederate White House. Jefferson Davis himself thought she couldn't read. But she had a photographic memory. She read his war documents, memorized them, and passed them straight to the Union. Her intelligence helped turn the tide of war. And then, she disappeared. Her records erased to protect her identity. Virginia raised statues to the men she defeated. But Mary Richards Bowser? Buried in silence. After the war, Virginia built Jim Crow, but black Virginians built institutions. Maggie Walker was born in 1864 to a mother who had been enslaved. In 1903, she became the first black woman in America to charter and run a bank. Her St. Luke Penny Savings Bank gave black families loans and mortgages when white banks shut them out. White Virginia tried to destroy her, attacking her credibility, starving her bank of resources. But Maggie Walker's bank outlasted many white-owned banks, even through the Great Depression. She proved that black women could lead. She proved independence was possible in a system built to deny it. In Alexandria, George Lewis Seton was born free in the 1820s. He became a carpenter, but also something more, a politician, a landowner, and a school builder. Under the Freedmen's Bureau, Seton built the Snowden School for boys and the Hallowell School for girls, some of the first formal schools for black children in Virginia. He even served in Virginia's House of Delegates during Reconstruction. For a moment, black leadership was real. But as Jim Crow rose, Seton's name was nearly erased from history. His schools closed, his political victories buried. Yet every classroom he built was proof that education itself was a form of resistance. Jenny Dean was born enslaved in 1848. She never had the education she dreamed of, so after emancipation she worked as a servant and saved every penny. In 1894, she founded the Manassas Industrial School for Colored Youth. It was one of the only secondary schools for black students in Virginia, teaching academics and trades. She faced constant opposition. White Virginians called her school dangerous. They starved it of funding. But she never stopped. Jenny Dean's school stood as a monument to black determination, until the system tried to erase it. Amelia Perry Pride was born to formerly enslaved parents in 1857. She became a teacher, but saw something many ignored: elderly black women, once enslaved, abandoned, and alone. So she created the Dorchester Home, one of the first care homes for formerly enslaved women in Virginia. While the state funded Confederate cemeteries, black women had to care for each other. Amelia Pride's story is quiet, but it's revolutionary. In a world that saw these women as disposable, she proved they mattered. In the early 1800s, Abraham Peyton Skipwith bought his freedom and land in Richmond. He built a life against impossible odds. But like so many black families, his legacy was buried. His cemetery was paved over, his memory erased, until historians rediscovered it centuries later. Skipwith's story forces us to ask, how many black successes were literally buried under Virginia's obsession with Confederate memory? John Punch, Elizabeth Key, Mary Richards Bowser, Maggie Walker, George Seton, Jenny Dean, Amelia Pride, Abraham Skipwith. Each one carved out freedom, power, and dignity in a state designed to erase them. Their victories were met with new laws, new barriers, new silences, and yet they survived. They built schools, banks, and communities. They left blueprints for resistance that still inspire us today. Virginia calls itself the birthplace of America. But these forgotten heroes prove it was also the birthplace of resistance. If these stories moved you, don't let them stay buried. Like, share, and subscribe. Because history like this won't show up in textbooks, but together, we can bring it back to life.